Hello everyone and welcome again to the channel. Today I'm talking about my first loss. You know, there's childhood and then there's the moment childhood ends, because sometimes you deal with some things you feel adults should be the ones to deal with. Hi, I'm Lydia. On this channel I share real stories and practical tools for navigating life's transitions, because change is inevitable. But transition doesn't have to break us, right? Good. Now, I've talked about my teenage years, I've talked about my first, I've talked about other things. Today, my first is about my first loss, and that was the loss of my grandfather, my maternal grandfather. That man was dear to me. That man, I felt like, was an anchor to my soul. That man taught me love in his own way. That man taught me acceptance. That man taught me how to feel special. That man taught me what it means to be catered to and to be taken care of and to be shown unconditional love. I was so attached to my paternal grandfather that if there was a holiday season, like we had 3 holiday seasons, there was the end of the first term, April, and then the second term was August, and then third term was December, the whole month. If I did not see him all those 3 times, I felt some emptiness. Their way of showing love wasn't by words. I think you can relate if you probably, I'm from Kenya, so maybe some Kenyans here will relate. There was no saying I love you, but for him, I learned his deep love. Particularly, I saw how first he related with my mom. There was no question about his love for my mom. And I remember my mom telling me this story about the time that she was getting separated from my dad, and there's these taboos about not being welcome back home. Our culture, I'm Luo, our culture is very paternal, very, very, what do you call it? There's no softer words, chauvinistic. Okay, so he put his foot down when, as a divorced woman and with a young child, or had just lost a child, it was a taboo to welcome her into his home. But in the middle of the night, he said, I don't care, that's my daughter. You can take your taboos and live with them. And that's how we grew up. I think my mom got all her courage and confidence from her dad at a time when it was taboo to even think of divorce, So she carried this confidence with her that was so silent, but so it was right there. You saw it in how she carried herself. You saw it in how she dressed. You saw it in how she behaved. I was amazed. And now I see where she got it from. She was loved deeply by her father, and her father extended that love to us, his grandchildren. I remember traveling, and it was a long journey, by the way. It was over 6 hours because the roads were not so good, but it was a journey worth taking. We would sit on the bus to wait for it to fill, and then travel all the way to, it's called Uyoma. Kanea Uyoma. The peanuts, the groundnuts, we call them groundnuts, we used to pick from the farm, the cotton, and my grandpa making sure that we had the best of those. If they were picked and there was a time, he would take his time to get the ones that were smaller or not so well matured and save the bigger ones for us and say, hey, my grandchild, this is for you. You could tell he did it with a lot of love and passion and genuineness. And he had this way of smiling. He didn't laugh often, but he had this way of smiling, a soft smile that would melt any heart. So what I remember is being treated so special. My grandpa would wake up in the morning, very early in the morning, not something that he would do quite often, but when we came, he would wake up very early in the morning to go to the lake, walk miles and miles to go to the lake to fetch, to go and fetch fish. Is it fetch? Catch? Get us fish. Whatever, he went fishing. Okay, if that's the word. He went fishing and he came back with the biggest ones. And when he got back, he would instruct his wife that this is special fish for my grandchildren. Please make it special. And we would hear him say those. So we internalized the fact that this man loved us deeply. There was no running water in the rural area, so we had to go to the lake to fetch the water or to clean clothes and do laundry, stuff like that. But we would never walk those kilometers. I think it was either 2 or 3 kilometers to the lake. We wouldn't walk. He wouldn't let us walk. He had 2 donkeys. One was called Anyango. The other one I really can't remember. It's just that I know Anyango was assigned to me particularly anytime I needed to go to the lake. Whether it was just to play, whether it was to go and help fetch water, whether it was to help with anything. And he didn't even want us to touch anything. I had to be put on Anyango and for someone to help direct Anyango all the way to the lake. And even on the way back, whether Anyango carried 10 whatevers of water, whatever Anyango, it didn't matter. I had to get on Anyango because if my grandpa learned that I walked from the lake back home, that would be a problem for whoever I was with. Real love. A bond. A tight bond that... So my grandpa died when I was in Form 2. The first term of Form 2. So, that was grade 10? 9. Is it? Well, I can't do the math well. Grade 9, I think. Or 10. I think grade 10. And I remember being called into the office, and in those days, being called in the office meant trouble. I was so nervous, like, what did I do? Like, why am I being called to the office? I didn't do anything. And then I remember being told to sit down. So I sat down, and the relationship with the teacher-student relationship, you can relate if you went to school in Kenya. It's just authoritarian. There's a teacher here and you were way down there, and that was it. So you instructed, sit over there. I sat, and then the teacher on duty came. The message was sent to her because apparently parents were not allowed to even see the students during normal office hours, whatever. It was just a very strict environment. So my mom left a message at school that my grandpa had died, and I was being given permission to go home to mourn. So I'm sitting there wondering what did I do and praying to God that, I'm not in trouble. So this teacher comes in and asks another teacher, doesn't even address me. What is this one doing here? And I think the other teacher signals something to her, and then she asks, or is this the one whose grandpa has died and is needed home? And I think I lost my senses for a little bit. I was so disoriented. I was so confused. I was filled with intense grief. And I think what even made it worse was the delivery of that message. And how I didn't know how to process it. First I felt, oh, not me. Maybe they're talking about a different student. But then I look around, I am the only one here. So it definitely must be me. And I also knew that my grandpa had been sick for a while. He had some form of prostate cancer. So in my brain, maybe it was coming, but probably not that soon. I was so confused. And I remember, like, nobody taught me grief. Nobody taught me how to process that transition for me, because it was the first time I had a loss, a big loss. And I would imagine that even the delivery of a message should be slow, gentle, honest. Oh, what a transition. And it was, I don't know, sometimes I remember it, sometimes it's completely blocked, sometimes. And I also have a phobia for dead bodies. So I couldn't even get myself to go even see my own grandpa in his last resting place, like his casket. I have like an intense physical reaction to the thought of a dead body or something like that. I could not even get there. And I couldn't explain this to others as well. So it was, I think it was shock plus disbelief, plus I really cannot, but it was a grief that I didn't process at all. And it interfered with my learning that whole year, I can tell you. And the only excuse I could say about why my grades were not so good in Form 2, I would say peer pressure. You know why? Because I knew that many of my friends' grades were also not good at that time. And I also overheard a teacher talking about how Form 2 is not an easy time for kids, and there's a lot of peer pressure, and so they don't do so well. I took that real quickly, but for real, whatever was wrong with me, because I knew I was capable, whatever was wrong with me was that loss that kept coming, and the nightmares I had about it, and everything that I didn't process. So I just think many of us grow up too fast and quietly, and you're just expected to go through these major things without any support. This series is about learning how to transition better than we were taught. Please, I hope you get something from it. Next time I talk about something else, probably leaving home and maybe choosing a future or college or something, or what to do in college. If this story resonated, please subscribe and come back tomorrow. I'm telling this journey in order, one chapter at a time. And the next piece might be the one you need most. See you in the next one.